States, be that the President of the United States, or the Chief of Police in the City of Richmond, or, God forbid, the Sheriff of the City of Richmond, they all swear an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and they violate their oath to uphold the Constitution every single day, because the basis of the government is the Federal Reserve Bank, which exists in violation of Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, Article 3, Section 3 of the Constitution, Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, and entirely Article 6 of the Constitution. So, basically, it's very simple for all these people to come out and swear oaths and say that they're lawyers and that they comprehend what the law is. They violate the law every single day by serving in the United States government, which is nothing more than the governing arm of the Federal Reserve Bank, which was formed 100 years ago in an unlawful manner. All we're doing now is saying all the people have to do is to hold their representatives accountable. If you're active in any sort of activity that is in opposition of the government, you're missing the point, because the enemy is the Federal Reserve Bank. If you don't like Obamacare, it's the Federal Reserve Bank. If you don't like them cutting food stamps, it's the Federal Reserve Bank. If you're on the left or you're on the right, you're just the left arm or the right arm of the Federal Reserve Bank. There is no left and right. There's only the political constructs of the Federal Reserve Bank, which is unlawful. Basically, because the Federal Reserve Bank exists, then the United States government can't exist, because of the parts of the Constitution that the Federal Reserve Bank violates. Basically, the Federal Reserve Bank creates money out of thin air and then charges the American people interest through taxes and bonds. It's simple. You all work for the Federal Reserve Bank. We all work for the Federal Reserve Bank, and we don't have any say in how our government or our economy functions. This is taxation without representation. This is government through banking tyranny. This is the international banking cartel controlling every aspect of every single American's life. This is debt slavery. And, above all, we don't see any police out here. We don't see any congressmen out here. We don't see any judges out here. If they don't come out here, if the government officials don't come out here and stand with us and say, we need to end the Federal Reserve Bank. The Federal Reserve Bank has dissolved American sovereignty, then they are part of the problem. If the government officials don't join us in opposing the Federal Reserve Bank, they are in violation of their oath to uphold the Constitution. It's that clear. It's that simple. All of the fraud exists from the Fed. And, anybody who wants to, get things going or come up here and speak, I think we're going to have, when one of our speakers shows up, I think we're going to get started speaking. But anybody who wants to add anything, we're out here. This is an important issue. This is what controls everything that we do. And in this next year, we're going to bring this to light, to the people. We're going to let them know. Don't get caught up in any of that fake election nonsense or Republican versus Democrat. They all work for the Fed. And the Fed works for a private bank called the Bank for International Settlements in a foreign country, Switzerland. So, anyway, thanks for coming out. This is a great turnout. Thank you.
Well, I am a yeller. Hey, there he is. Come on, bro. Come on, man. Hey, there he is. So, great turnout, everybody. I know the weather sucks and it's the holiday season and everybody's got a lot going on, but to see everybody here, makes me know that you're committed and you understand the score, you understand the hour, you understand the importance of being out here, and you're willing to, sacrifice that time and put yourself out there, put yourself in front of the media, put yourself in front of these so-called officials, and let them know that we're not going to take it. 100 years is 100 years too long. That's not what we were supposed to stand for. As our founding fathers said, the choice to find out whether free men can rule themselves is a grand experiment. And that's why we're here. And in many ways that experiment has failed. It's been corrupted since 1913. And we all look to our Constitution for our Declaration of Rights. It doesn't grant our rights. It's just a statement saying we now, on paper recognize these rights. But the flip side of that coin is responsibility. The United States Constitution outlines the rights that we naturally have, and it also says what we have to do to make sure that we don't lose those rights. And peaceful assembly, free speech, the Second Amendment, that is our national defense. As Japanese Emperor Yamamoto said, one cannot invade mainland America, or there'll be a rifle behind every blade of grass. That's not what we need the DHS, the civilian, military enforcement arm. As President Obama, when he was campaigning, said, we're going to build a domestic force comparable to our military. Well, that's really close to, quartering soldiers in World War peacetime. But for those who pay attention, things like the NDAA, which was recently re-signed, pending Obama's penmanship, which is, of course, going to happen, most likely at the 11th hour, just like the founding of the Fed on, 2 days before Christmas in 1913, where you didn't hop on a jet and go home, you had to get on your horse or whatever you had to do. So they were already gone by then, and even the District of Columbia itself is not part of this country. It is not a state. It is not part of this country. Just like the Vatican is not part of Rome, the City of London is not part of England. All three of those entities are in collaboration to create what we have here today, which is this Federal Reserve, essentially neo-feudalism. Like I was told when I worked for the bank, that I was not allowed to use the word sir. First of all, I said, under what authority do you tell me what words I can and cannot use? Second of all, I must have struck a bone, because sir seems to be pretty close to the truth if I wouldn't allow to talk about it. I can go and dive into kind of my spiel if you want.
You call it. Keep going.
Well, anybody who knows me knows that I can talk. Everybody hear me okay? Anybody knows me knows I can talk. My father said I didn't talk till I was 2 and I ain't shut up yet. I don't have any intention of shutting up until we get some action. As Chris correctly pointed out, everyone who's taking notes, whether you're a politician or an employee of any of these organizations, your law enforcement, your military, we all took an oath to the Constitution, not to the President, not to the office, not to the Congress. There's a lot of fire service military here, myself included. Did 5 years in the Marine Corps, got out, went to college, graduated at ECU, and went to work for SunTrust Mortgage Headquarters, and went to work for the bank as a credit risk officer. And August 5th of this year, I was fired from that position for discovering the actual way that they're one of the many layers of how they commit fraud on a daily basis. Everyone knows about the mortgage crash that happened, and not everyone really understands what that is and how that happened. But essentially, just like the entire Federal Reserve and the government itself, does not have any desire to improve the lives of the citizens that live in this country. It's all about profit. Even the word mortgage itself, research the etymology of that word. Mort, debt, gage, the promise of repay. A mortgage is a debt pledge. That's why they extended all this credit to people who they knew couldn't repay. It's not about getting repaid. It's about turning us into debt slaves. And what I did at SunTrust was a credit risk. I monitored, I evaluated the 2008 mortgage crisis and evaluated the riskiness of those loans so the bank could understand how risky the loans are today. And beyond the fact that I proved that the risk was greater than they had said it was. I also pointed out that the conditions in no way have made it less risky. As soon as the Department of Justice says you're too big to fail, that means you're too big to prosecute, and there are no rules for you. So they've done whatever they wanted to since then. But my management told me to go back and sit down and be quiet. That's not my problem. But I reminded them, first of all, as an employee, it says in my code of conduct, I have a fiduciary responsibility to the stockholders and to any investor who buys these bonds, these mortgage-backed securities. It's my job to tell you if something doesn't smell right, and it stinks, and they fired me for it. And I told them furthermore, I'm the United States Marine. I have an oath to the Constitution I take seriously. And as many people at some of these demonstrations have yelled at me, what gives you the right to criticize our president? What gives you the right to speak out? I asked them it was a trick question. I could have sworn the First Amendment of the Constitution gave me that right to do that. Not gave me, but noted that I have the right to do that. That's why we're all here. And we need to make sure that all these people involved, whether they are aware of what they're doing or not, and the sad truth is many are not even aware that they have been bamboozled in this scheme, this debt slavery system. And even the federal government has questioned the Fed, and they've said, you know what? You don't have any authority to audit us. You don't have any authority to ask us where the money went. We outrank you. That's what they told all of our elected officials. And they're right based on their view of the law. But they look at the law as administrative codes, statutes, permits, and all this kind of just nonsense. The law is the Constitution, and that's what we're here to enforce. Amen. Thank you. So thanks all for coming out, and for those who haven't seen it online, this is not a one-day event, this is day one of a year-long event to keep the pressure on. Tell these people that work in this building that you are in violation of any oath you've taken, you're in violation of constitutional law, and we're not going to sit for it. We sat for 100 years. All fiat currencies fail, historical fact, and this one will too. And we're not going to stand by and let our citizens be put to death like they were under Stalin and Mao, the Khmer of Cambodia, any great dictator. As soon as the weapons are gone, mass democide, death by government ensues. And we're not going to let that happen. As oath keepers say, not on my watch.
Amen, mate.
They just lowered it to the left.
That's
Watching all the security guards in there. All of them in mass. In mass, they all come into the lobby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy everybody. We got to turn out. Yeah.